the thing he's whining about now is that when he left the royal family and his official role, they said, we're not going to be paying for your security when you come over here. You know, you've left you're no longer a working royal, so you're not going to get the police force around you when you pay visits here. And Harry's argument to the BBC and in court was, I can never leave the royal family. I could leave as a working royal, but I am part of the royal family, and therefore I'm in danger. And that they never did a review of my security status. They just yanked it to try to force me, and you were saying this couldn't possibly be, but try to force me to stay as a working royal, because he said my threat level was the highest of anybody back in like 2020. And then they revoked all my protection without even doing an additional security assessment, proving in his mind they knew I was at risk. And while I left as a working royal, I never can leave being a royal because, as he said to the BBC, you know, I am who I am.
100%. And he wants to be treated like a former prime minister who will receive lifetime security rights. So even Liz Truss, she was prime minister for six weeks, she receives security for the rest of her life. He believes that that's what he deserves. Now, Meghan, in the negotiations after Megxit, at this thing called the Sandringham Summit, where all of the senior royals, the late Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles, William, and their senior staff gathered, Harry was told point blank, you will lose your security if you leave in this way. Yes, that is why the royals tried to come to some type of arrangement with Harry. There were loads of ideas thrown around. At one point, it was like, could we maybe move you to South Africa, a Commonwealth country, for 6 months of the year? What about making you the Governor General of Australia? Is there some type of role for you in Canada? But as soon as Meghan Markle made it absolutely clear that it was all about the moolah, it was all about the big bucks, it was all about trading off the royal name. And you've got to remember, she was lining up these deals, Meghan, when she was still the Duchess of Sussex. She was in talks with Disney, she was in talks with the publishing companies, in talks with Netflix. So at that point, the late Queen Elizabeth II, quite rightly, in my opinion, said, no, there is no half in, half out. So you go with our blessing, but you lose everything, and you do lose your security. And you can imagine the difficulty for the British government, because if they were to fund Prince Harry's security, that would also mean that there would be pressure for them to provide security to other high net worth, famous individuals who come to the United Kingdom. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and that doesn't happen in this country. Now, Harry has been very intellectually dishonest, though, to suggest that there is no security for him. Every time he has come, King Charles has offered him a lodging at, wait for it, Buckingham Palace. And guess what, Meghan? Buckingham Palace is empty at the moment, right? Charles is at Clarence House. William is in Windsor. So he could have the run of Buckingham Palace. And if he was at Buckingham Palace, he would receive full security. Guess what? Harry said no. He went to stay with a posh, rich friend at an £8 million flat. It has been revealed, Meghan, that he ordered Deliveroo. You know Deliveroo? It's like a food ordering service here, like Uber Eats or whatever. Now, that goes against every form of security if you're a member of the royal family. So he doesn't really care. This is just something for Harry to do. He needs to have a battle. He needs to have a mission. It's actually deeply sad, but I have zero sympathy for him, because the fact that he is putting his father through this in the final years of his life has a very, very sinister mirroring of exactly what he did with Prince Philip. Do you remember that? The Oprah interview and all of that when Prince Philip was on his deathbed, and then the late Queen Elizabeth II, because all of the drama around Spare and the Netflix documentary and all of their other terrible slights happened when the late Queen Elizabeth II was dying of blood cancer. It's like, you're never going to learn, and there's no turning back. And Meghan, there are members of the royal family who believe that Harry's behavior hastened the death of the late Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
That is not something that they will easily forgive and forget.
I believe that too. That's what I say. I say those two killed the Queen. That's my opinion. They killed the Queen. Yeah, she would have lived longer had they not ruined her last 2 years on Earth with their selfishness.
So much stress.
He lost at the trial court level on this push to make the British royal family pay for his security when he goes to the UK. And then he appealed it, and he's just lost the appeal. And now he runs to the BBC. He's totally forlorn. He's like, can't believe I lost this. And now he's got this warning for his cancer-stricken father in SOT 43.
Once they realise that, myself, my wife, and our kids are happier outside of the institution, then please just look at the facts. Look at the risks, look at the threat, look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, if anything was to happen to them, look where the responsibility lies,
I mean, what a manipulation. My father's grandchildren. They're going to die, and it will be his fault. That's what he was saying there.
It's gaslighting on a grand scale. But Megyn, you know how when the palaces usually brief about these types of stories, right, they're quite buttoned up and, they try and keep the language, the tone quite controlled. That's all out the window after this interview. They are raging. They have had enough. So the accusations now against Harry are you're gaslighting. They've literally used that term. And they've also described their behavior, and especially the behavior of Meghan Markle, by the way, who after that interview posted a picture of Harry on his own, sort of looking forlorn with the two children, although, of course, you don't see the faces of the children and it looks like their bodies have been manipulated. So that's all really weird.
In their garden in Montecito.
Yeah, in the garden. That's it.
Walking away.
Do you know what the palace briefed? That is Meghan Markle giving us a giant F-U. Now, that is not the sort of language usually used by the royal family, but they're fed up.
It was usually bugger off.
Yes, that's true. They definitely want him to bugger off. It's just like, leave us alone, go and do your own thing, enjoy your millions. What is this all about? And you can understand from Charles's point of view, it's like, we've offered you Buckingham Palace, you'd get royal security if there was a risk or if you were here for any type of formal event. But if you're at Buckingham Palace, you're protected anyway because of all of the natural security that is provided at Buckingham Palace. What's your problem? The problem is he wants to be able to swan into the country whenever he wants, not tell anyone, and receive state-funded security. It just isn't going to happen. But the problem is, he's surrounded by yes men. He's surrounded by people who have created this delusion in his head. And actually, he is now a pathetic man, really, on so many levels. Because you also remember, Megyn, and I was more personally involved in this one because I was actually going to give evidence against Harry. And he said it was the fight of his life. He was going to take Rupert Murdoch and the tabloid newspapers to court. And he was going to be the first man to do it. He was never going to settle. And this was the battle of his life versus the Sun and News of the World. And he was going to be the guy to bring down Rupert Murdoch. Well, guess what? The day the trial was meant to start, he folded, and he folded for a big sum. He settled. So then he says, this security case is the fight of my life. This is the battle of my life. But he's lost. So what now? What now? The problem is there is nothing. He has no focus. He has no job. He's trapped in a very unhappy marriage with a narcissistic woman who is now wearing the trousers in the relationship because she's the money maker. Harry isn't making any money. She's the one that is now going to commercialize the children, pimp them out on social media, even though Prince Harry has said that social media is a killing ground for children. And so he's just got nothing. It's really sad that someone who on the surface has everything, look at his life. He's like a
bored housewife who's looking 100%. For drama because he's not busy 100%. Enough. This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset as BRICS nations push forward with their plans. Some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.